going to have to see how he's going to be performing up against Beasty. We can already see what the draft is going to be here, looking at it. And we got a pretty classic VortiX draft, I want to say, picking the Delhi here on Rocky River up against the English. And we know Delhi versus English. That's going to be something that VortiX have to feel very, very confident in.
Yeah, is that a little bit surprising, Voldemar, as an opening pick from Beasty? Because looking at this map pool, I guess you could argue that Delhi could appear on Dry Arabia. But I feel like a pattern we've been seeing developing here has been Delhi as an opening pick on Rocky River several times now in the playoffs.
Yeah, definitely. Delhi is always such a solid pick to open up with because it's one of those civs that have very few bad matchups on these open LAN maps. Going into English, it's certainly one of those matchups that a lot of people would say, okay, for the English player, this is one of the most unfavorable matchups you can get. But then again, I will say that VortiX and Lucifron as well, they have put out some pretty incredible displays with the English. It is possible to do something, but it can snowball very quickly. And so for Beasty, it's definitely a matter of that early game. Where does he take it? Second TC is definitely not an option against a player like VortiX. So I suspect we're going to see more focus on either a king aggression or a council hall play. Good old standard.
I guess, like, in some ways, thinking about this matchup, the English is probably one of the hardest civs to dive, right, Crackety? And I think, you know, we've seen it time and time again. Delhi have control of the map. Where they sometimes lose the game is when they decide to go into the enemy's base. We know VortiX likes to go for an 11 and an out of 10 on attack. Is there a risk that maybe he kind of jumps the gun and goes to the win before it's ready, right? Like, diving English is always a risk, but for a player like Beasty, who is an absolute top tier in defense, maybe that's the way he kind of gets back into this, bait VortiX into doing something wrong.
We've seen it work sometimes for the English, where they're able to just go for that second TC and wait it out long enough in order to be able to get that white tower up and 2 TC, and they have enough villagers. Suddenly they have the tech advantage, and that's really where they can then take the game back. The thing is, if Delhi early on gets control over the sacred sites, able to reinvest all the gold into more military, that's when you get to that big mass where even as the English, you might not have the tools that you need in order to take back the sacred sites in time, where the 2 TC boom just isn't going to be fast enough. And that could very well happen here as well.
I wonder if we see... No, I'm living in La La Land. I was going to say, Vodom, I wonder if we see some kind of crazy dock play with the Scholar now spawning there to kind of go for a capture. But I don't know. I feel like ever since Rocky River got nerfed and they reduced the fishing count, we never see fishing boat play anymore.
No, and there's good reason for it with the nerf to the fishing count for sure. We also just have to remember that when we're playing Beasty, when Beasty and VortiX are playing each other, we have to be so sharp. So when they go into these games, we are super focused on what the map provides us and what the matchup is. This map is actually quite interesting for the English because you have that sacred site supposedly rather close to you if you get the spawn for it. And so if BC manages to get a good spawn where he's able to contest at least one sacred site, that could be the way out of this bad matchup for him. But then again, it can also just be one of those games where it's like, yeah, well, this matchup was crooked in the first place. There's no way he can actually win this.
We'll have to see if that ticking time bomb is going to get going early here. Interesting thought going into this series. They are neck and neck on competitive performances. Historically, across 16 series is a 50-50 split here. Now, in games, there is a slight edge for VortiX, but it's fair to say that when you get VortiX and Beasty into a best of 5 in an elimination series, anything could happen, but anything that leads to a loss will lead to tears because one of these players will have to miss out on Red Bull Wololo El Reinado on LAN. Let's find out who's going to be commiserations for and who is going to continue on here in the lower bracket of Red Bull Wololo.
All right, diving in, Rocky River it is again. English versus the Delhi Sultanate. And I gotta say, I'm feeling very confident in the Delhi Sultanate here in this matchup. Personally, at least because I struggle with it. Every now and then, like I see a lot of people, well, actually it's not every now and then. Every day, I see a lot of people on Reddit complaining, English, there's some good pick. The best tip that I can give people that are in those situations, learn Delhi. You're definitely not going to struggle against English as much anymore.
It's a fair point to make. It's one of those hard counter matchups, and we just gonna see it again here, where Delhi potentially could go and actually be super dominant. I'm looking at the spawn as well. We're looking at the sacred side. So he did not get that spawn that we were talking about where the sacred side is super safe for him. So this is actually even more unfavorable for him.
Looking overall at the spawn for Beasty, it's not bad. Like, all the gold and the stone. It's in the back. It's next to the wood lines. Relatively easily wallable. Could be a nice spot to get a second TC play going here for him. Relatively safe for him. 100% there. VortiX, I mean, we know him. He's just gonna go for the sacred side play. I'm wondering what BC's plan though is gonna be. Like, 100%, I think it's gonna be Abbey. I don't think we're gonna see Council Hall. Abbey of Kings gonna be coming in.
Yeah,
and then just second TC. What do you think?
We also have to think that, okay, what are you essentially trying to accomplish here? If you decide to go for something that's not the meta with the Delhi, you are giving the game to putting the game in Beasty's hands, because now he is dictating what's going to happen the moment that you decide not to go for the classic feudal play. So I don't think VortiX is just going to do that. He's a known meta player. He's known for being so sharp in his mechanics, and he's going to try to utilize that here. So heading into this matchup with the Tower of Victory up against the Abbey of Kings, I mean, surely we will see an all-in.
I might be wrong, but I think we're going to see an early blacksmith coming out from VortiX, and I think the first upgrade he's going to queue Siege Workshop, Siege Engineering.
I mean, it depends. Again, Beasty, I'm not sure he would go for a second TC here. He knows that that spells doom. He goes for the mill opener and decides to play it a little bit more conservatively, maybe, going for some upgrades first and then relying on those upgrades. Certainly an interesting thought going into this matchup, because the Delhi get all this upgrade for free, so you want to try to keep up with that. And the English can, once they're set up, keep up with it when it comes to the farm setup. In the end, they might actually be able to, once they have 3 mills surrounded, to fully produce man-at-arms and longbows.
Mm. Yeah, in those situations, the English definitely can shine, having a really, really tanky front line there as well. Question is if they can actually survive until that comes into play, though. I don't know, like, 2TC always seems like such a bait in many regards. Like, it's such a great thing to have, and as English, you kind of feel like, oh yeah, I'm English, I get the aura as well, I'm gonna be safe to go for that. Surely it's not gonna be a problem. Then you go for it, and suddenly it's like, oh no, I'm dead. When suddenly, like, 20 Ghazi Raiders just burn down your TC.
Yeah, you gotta watch out in this matchup. One misstep, and then you're on the back foot for the rest of the game. If you think you have taken a good fight, but in the end it wasn't a good fight, then if you are playing the rest of the game with that thought that now you're actually ahead, that all-in might still come. You have to remember the Delhi's got that increased production, and they don't need to invest as much into production buildings. And so the timing can come a lot earlier than you think.
See, grabbing that early wheelbarrow. King, it's gonna take a while to come out there. Take a look at VortiX base. Do we already see any production buildings coming out there from him? Stable. This is gonna be coming in now. With that, Ghazi Raiders are definitely gonna be following rather soon.
I'm gonna open up with the blacksmith here, and this is something that typically we'll see. Stable coming out from both of these players is rather interesting. Beasty gonna try to throw this curveball out here. We were talking about how he has to play it meta on VortiX side, but Beasty, he has this opportunity to do something with the king and the healing that he can provide to the horseman, and potentially do pretty well against these early Ghazi archer composition.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be an interesting one. Some walls also coming out from VortiX, making sure that his base is not going to be something that you can just walk around easily. Ghazi Raiders now with the double production are going to be coming out rather quickly. Beasty, already a couple of horsemen in queue. Blacksmith upgrade is going to be the Pearsome upgrade for the beginning here.
See a couple of upgrades as well, and it's really necessary to go for that too, because you're trying to scale behind it as Beasty. Gonna have to produce horsemen here tonight. The king is out and trying to look for some damage here. He's gonna probably be able to deny some vision here up against this scout, and that's gonna be crucial when it comes to his next transition, because as long as he's staying on a stable, and that's all that VortiX knows, whether he decides to go for castle age chiming or full farms into an infantry switch, again, that is what he's trying to deny the intelligence for.
Yeah, more walls now coming in from Beasty. Both players just making sure, since each of them are going for these mobile units, that the mobility factor isn't going to be too big here. Now the Ghazi Raiders do find the King and the Horsemen. In theory, are just going to be able to stick onto the King there.
You got to remember that the Ghazi Raiders are faster than the Scout and the King here, so they will be able to eventually do a lot of damage. This King is now going to have to run all the way back unless Beasty has a follow-up here to deny the Ghazi Raider push. So this is actually really scary.
Sanctity around the corner now for VortiX as well. Doesn't look like the Scholars... Actually, they might already be moving out right now. Are the Scholars moving out? There are 2 dots, but they're quite fast now. It's probably also just Ghazi Raiders.
Look at these beautiful body blocks coming out from Beasty, trying to make sure that his King comes back home. He doesn't need that King to heal up his Horsemen. Their Horsemen are actually not doing too bad. King's going to stay alive here, going to head back to safety and heal up. And that's actually a pretty big fight coming from Beasty here, because now the Ghazi Raiders are damaged and his King survived.
And they're a little bit out of position as well. Now the Horsemen do come in. Couple of body blocks coming in as well. Are they going to be able to pick off that Scholar? That would be absolutely huge here for Beasty. Scholar, though, is going to look to be breaking some ankles here as he's just hovering around the Horseman there. Staying alive for the time being. It does go down in the end, though, but definitely took a couple of ankles there with him.
Yeah, it's a good effort, but he did lose a couple of Horsemen in the end, so... When it comes to the investment, sure, he did lose more resources, but the denial of that sacred site and the potential second sacred site, that is a lot of resources that VortiX now has to give up on because he lost that one.
And it's going to be an additional Scholar that VortiX is going to have to produce, or rather, he's going to have to probably get a Scholar that was inside one of his buildings out now in order to get that sacred site. Yeah, indeed, Scholar gets pulled out. Sacred site at least is going to get captured. A couple of villagers move over to the berries at a point in time where BC actually sends a couple of horsemen out now. But the outpost should be finishing in time, I want to say, or rather close to in time. It's a lot of villagers working on that outpost. Yeah, it looks to be finishing in time, but it's more villagers here than can fit inside the outpost.
This could definitely be deadly if he takes down a couple of vills here, but you have to remember that Ghazi are right behind and the tower is garrison, so he does pull out again. If he had had more horsemen here, it could potentially become pretty deadly. You have to remember, BC's already ahead with 3 villages. I think it must have been because VortiX went for textiles and potentially have idled a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, might have been some idle time there for sure. Now behind this army-wise, VortiX does have the lead overall when it comes to the Ghazi Raiders. They're just all over the place right now, not really grouped up. Has a bunch of them over here, but he's going to lose a couple of his archers here for it. Once again, tries to micro around. It's always so important that you really kill a unit. You can't really let them get away for both players, because on one side, the Delhi can heal up with the Scholars. On the other hand side, Beasty can just heal up passively with the Abbey of Kings really quickly as well. First farm clusters in as well.
It's a good point you make there. Both of these civilizations are incredibly... They have this utility to heal when it comes to the skirmishes here early. The farm setup is actually going to be really important, because even though VortiX has the map control and a lot of berries, in the long run, if Beasty can defend it, which is going to be the most important thing for him in this game, once VortiX starts to run out of resources, then he's going to be in a better position, and that's where his timing really is.
Yeah. Combo mass has started to build up, but VortiX, he does have that mass of Ghazi Raiders right now, does have the Pierce armor upgrade as well. Is he going to be able to take this fight here right now? He's running in quite deep under TC, 15 villagers garrison inside that. Lose a lot of the Ghazi Raiders here. He keeps actually diving in there. I'm not sure if that's the right play here. He's killing a lot of the longbows, but also losing a lot of his Ghazi Raiders. Now Beasty actually has the lead when it comes to the cavalry. This might have been an overstep here now for VortiX. Quite a massive one.
Yeah, and simultaneously it had to idle out the berry location from before, because now that he was being attacked here in this base, Beasty actually went for a counter raid on the berries. And this is just something that is so important in these situations that you don't overreact to this. Sure, you might take a few villager losses, but again, in the end, what you decide to do with this opening in the base of VortiX is actually much more important.
Yeah, VortiX did pull the villagers away early enough in order to not lose any. No sacred sites captured at all currently for the Dal Sultanate, and that really hurts VortiX. He also hasn't looked like he traded out any of his resource. He still has a lot of gold in the bank. He made a couple of scholars as well. So it doesn't look like he bought any resource with the market, which is typically what you would see from the Delhi at this point in time, just to be able to keep up that spam of Ghazi Raiders.
Yeah, but that's something you do when you have the sacred sites, and VortiX has 0 sacred sites at this stage of the game. Beasty has just been on so on point when it comes to denying the sacred site capture and the sacred sites in general, and now ultimately the food as well, that this is now starting to look heavily in favor for him.
Oh, Scholar in the middle. I don't think that VortiX has what it takes in order to keep that one alive as well. Now the reinforcements, or rather the initial force with the king, is going to come from the other side as well. And that's a big force, and I don't think... Yeah, VortiX, he can't really take this fight. Beasty's got all the melee upgrades as well. The melee damage.
The Archers go down, the Ghazi Raiders go down as well, and so does the Monk coming out here. This is such a crucial point in the game, because it's now that Beasty really solidifies his position, because now he's got the cavalry, and the cavalry counters both his enemy cavalry and Archers.
Yeah, King's still very, very healthy now, and VortiX, he just kept making on Archers and Archers and Archers, and that really hurts him here, because his opponent never really gave him a reason to make Archers, other than to fight against longbows, which never left the base from Beasty.
Sure, you got longbows and you're gonna be better on mobility when it comes to the Archers, but if you're not gonna build up enough Archers because you lost all your Ghazi Raiders to in the initial push, and whilst you didn't do enough damage there either, essentially you are not gonna find much value from those Archers when your opponent has a larger cavalry mass.
Yeah, behind this, Beasty can go up now. King's Palace, he knows he doesn't need the extra military. He can just be fine with going for the eco play. King's Palace coming up now with 9 villagers, and behind that, Beasty, triple farm cluster. His economy is set for the rest of the game, which isn't going to be long, I feel like.
Yeah, that's going to be the nail in the coffin here for VortiX, I believe, because now he has the victory condition of the second TC. He's got the tech advantage and the military advantage.
Longbow's now also setting up with the palings there. Yeah, nah, he can't get food there anymore. VortiX completely out of food. He's got 12 Ghazi Raiders now. But the HF's about to come in. I'm not sure how he's going to react to that. Maybe with a GG.
Yeah, maybe with a GG. We'll have to see. Only a few seconds left of this HF. VortiX still making these Ghazi Raiders, and they could prove to be quite strong here in this next fight. But again, it's so hard to say. You're up against an opponent that has King, Horseman, and whilst they do get Castle Age, what are you going to do? If you win this fight, or are you going to push that still?
Yeah, and now Age-Up has come in, able to take down the longbows here, at least for the time being, but still, it's so many Horsemen and King remaining. Beasty is going to go for the upgrade now on the Horsemen, and once Veterancy comes in, suddenly the Ghazi Raiders, even though on paper they're better in the same age, once the Age-Up comes in, the Veterancy comes in, suddenly the Horsemen don't trade out that nicely anymore. And then there's always just the constant healing. Beasty so far, he's done a great job just pulling the Horsemen back time and time again, getting them all healed up again. It's how you can really like keep your army value high throughout the entire time. VortiX is floating so much wood as well right now, wasn't able to ever really lock down any of these sacred sites. I think that just really hurt him here. The entire game plan just kind of fell apart when he wasn't able to secure them, and GG gets called. Beasty in an unfavorable matchup, able to take game number 1.
I would say he almost made that matchup look favorable for the English with that Horseman play. Such a strong outcome here, and it just looked to be, again, favorable.
Yeah, man, oh man. Looking at the military value lead there, throughout most of it, it looked like VortiX just had the upper hand, but splitting up his Ghazi Raiders just a little bit too much, unable to really secure those sacred sites in time. And in the end, that's really what you need, right? Like, you need those sacred sites. You need to be able to trade that out for resources. If you just because Ghazis, they're so expensive, and every now and then, like once you're getting idled here, idled there with the food, whenever you have those sacred sites, you're able to buy resources and kind of like make up for that.
Yeah, when you have a dive like that under the TC, you're immediately giving up the military, and that's just what you need to be able to capture those sacred sites. So it's sort of a double-edged sword. You can do damage, but you might not be able to find it, and then you might lose the leverage to go for sacred sites in the first place. The next map, however, is going to be Holy Island, and VortiX is going to be piloting the Shushi's Legacy, whereas Beasty's going to head on to the Japanese. What do you think about this matchup here?
A classic Spanish map, and overall, this matchup, it's one of these. If the game goes imp, Japan loses.
Do you really think so? I don't know if that's really the case, because it sort of depends on the overall land economy, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I want to say, like, in general, like, because once Imperial Age hits, like, water is instantly lost for Japan. Baochan's just absolutely demolished there. If a player is still on water at that time, like, the thing is, right, like, if Imperial hits and Japan has 1 water, all it takes is 10 villagers to rush up 3 docks, and suddenly Japan lost water, even though they might have held it for, like, the majority of the game as well. Just because at that point in time, like, as well, like, Baochan's can just absolutely crush anything that Japan can put on water. Then as well, like, they're also really solid on land overall. We saw it earlier where Japan managed to win on land after losing water. That was a really big comeback, though. We're gonna have to wait and see if something like that could happen here again. It's Beasty, though, so definitely, like, comebacks can happen here for him. This is a classic Spanish map, though.
It's a classic Spanish map. We do regard VortiX and Decisive as being some of the best water players here, and so even though BC is no stranger to water gameplay, it's always a question of how many water maps do you have in the draft when you're up against someone like VortiX or Lucy.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be an interesting one. Juji's Legacy, just such a dominant civilization. I'm just looking at the map here again. I'm seeing so many crazy spots there. I'm looking at where the middle wood line is, and you see you can get, like, double stone once again. You get the gold, you get the berries, all in range of a meditation garden. Yeah, right around there. That's just so many resources up for grabs. Could go there, could go up a little bit further. Like, that's also a great thing about the meditation garden. You can put it in a really aggressive spot and watch your opponent struggle to burn it down. That building has a lot of health. They will waste a lot of time trying to burn that down.
Yeah, definitely. We have seen that previously where players would like to go and actually do some damage against the meditation garden, but in the end, you just end up giving your opponent more time to build up something in their base with that incoming push. And so, whilst it does give you a lot of extra resources and not a lot of resources when it's being pushed, it gives you time indirectly.
Yeah. All right, Tawara coming in for Beasty here. Something that we saw earlier as well from Puppy Paw on this map. So he's going to be able to get that bonus movement speed on his villagers rather early. Let's get them up from 1.12 up to 1.2 tiles per second of movement speed. And it's relatively cheap as well.
Definitely a good upgrade to get early, because it's usually when you're playing these water maps that you're prioritizing an upgrade like Wheelbarrow. Definitely being able to get that early does help a lot with the initial wood collection. And so, yeah, you can get it early, but ultimately you are in a situation where you are looking for a timing. So getting too many upgrades in the Dark Age as Japanese is not necessarily ideal, though you can still get some really nice Shinobi timings. We also saw it before, where players would not go for that aggressive of a timing with the Japanese and just stick to a larger boat play. And we spoke about how that was actually creating a different dynamic where the opponent would go for fewer ships, get up earlier, but then expecting aggression, there was none. And now your opponent got up in a defensive situation, able to still match the boats that you have been putting out.
Yeah. Looking at it here so far, we're not getting that really early second dock play from the looks of it. Or at least, yeah, it doesn't look like we're getting that really early Japanese second dock play with BC here this time around. Makes a lot of sense, right? Like, in some situations, you do want to just be able to keep up with the age-up timing from the Juji's Legacy. Don't want to have yourself too exposed on water. It was kind of close the last time that we saw it. Could have been one of the reasons why Puppy Paw lost on water that game.
Possibly. Faster timing sure is good if you want to get that sabotage going on the docks, and that can help you a lot in the early engagements. What do you think about, like, sabotaging the meditation gardens? I wouldn't say that that's super important.
Villagers seem to be moving out now for VortiX. So Meditation Garden will be coming in soon. And yeah, that's a pretty good spot for it. Where exactly is he going to drop it? Cook Township on the other side also coming for Beasty, rushing that one up with 8 villagers. All right, not a bad one, not a bad one. Gets the berries, double stone, and the gold in as well. The upper one would have been just fairly similar. Granted, would have been an 8-spot berry patch instead of a 6 berry patch, but still very good, very good. Don't want to have it too exposed as well. Coca Township now. I mean, Shinobi, they got a couple of really good buffs, right? It would be interesting to see if maybe Beasty, I know he did it on stream, where he sent the Shinobi under the TC, under the main TC, and went for the sabotage that way. Because now the animation is actually short enough that you can do that. And typically on a water map, you don't have your villagers gathering from the sheep right on the TC, so that's definitely an option there. And you would cause a lot of idle time on the TC like that.
Yeah, but you gotta remember that the TC doesn't get its attack removed. It's essentially just a way to do some damage with your Shinobi, but I would say that there are better means to do so.
I mean, denying villagers.
Yeah, you might be denying villagers, but if you lose your Shinobi, 120 resources versus half a villager, is that really worth it?
It is. It is, because the Shinobi isn't going to go down, and the Shinobi regenerates health as well. Like, you can dive in, sabotage, go back out again, and the Shinobi just regenerates health afterwards. But VortiX, he is making Jugunu, so he is prepared to deal with that. He hasn't made an additional dock at this point in time yet. So he definitely will need military units to deal with that. But if the sabotage comes in, he's going to be in trouble because Beasty already has a second ship in queue.
Second ship in queue here, but VortiX focusing a little bit more on the Shugunus. That's going to be important. Loses the scout here again. That's such a big deal because it's vision. And if you want to get a second scout, that's essentially a villager you've lost unless you've got a stable to produce that scout from. So now Beasty is in a very comfortable position. Got a good map control on the waterfront. He's also denied vision on land. This is actually a really, really good situation for him because now he's actually going to be able to go and either dominate the water or the land, depending on what direction he wants to take it.
Beasty might need some horsemen now to deal with those Jugunus. Two Shinobi aren't going to quite cut that. It comes down to it. Instead, it looks like we're getting an outpost on the gold mine for Beasty. Shinobi has assumed the disguise of a villager from VortiX. At this point as well, like just teleporting two Shinobi into the woodline of your opponent if the Jugunu are out of position could do a lot of damage that way.
Yeah,
VortiX this
definitely.
entire time had only one archer ship out, by the way. He's only just now getting 2 sprinkled ships in the queue.
I'm wondering what that was all about. He's definitely had the resources to build extra ships, but he's also not been pressured too much. They have similar eco going for them as well, and you have to remember that the Japanese get cheaper ships as well. So, yeah, it's a weird situation because this is not really your typical water opener.
Definitely isn't. Not too many like conflicting points here so far on water. It's more ships now coming in queue. VortiX behind this though, he does have the supervision, right? Something that's bothering me a little bit is actually I'm not sure if I forget every time just how many upgrades are bugged with these civs, but Shuji's Legacy for sure can. Like, I'm not sure if Beasty got got double broad axe. I know VortiX didn't get it yet.
It's definitely an important upgrade to get here because you need that extra wood collection for playing water maps. And now getting into the water gameplay here, something I want to highlight is this dynamic that often happens on water maps. We spoke about it before, how when you're playing aggression, you will often find yourself against a similar skilled opponent at this level, that when you push into a similar sized army, even though you might have prioritized aggression. And so on water, finding damage can be so incredibly difficult.
It can be. And now we also see that Beasty, with that passive stone income that he gets from mining gold, already has one of the dock emplacements, so it makes it very hard for VortiX to be able to really push in now. VortiX already investing a lot into the demolition ship, so kind of a familiar strategy that we see here. And it looks like the Jugunu got a little bit too zealous, and with the amount of Shinobi that Beasty has at this point in time, actually able to take him down. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's really crazy to see that many Shinobi out in the field, and whilst you might have Shugenus that are supposed to counter a unit like that, now you're forcing your opponent to overinvest into Shugenus instead because you lost your initial ones, and that means that you're going to have less resources to spend on the water play, so by pushing here on the water, that can be so strong.
Oh my god, VortiX. He's got his entire fleet inside of Beastie's, like behind Beastie's navy. He's causing a lot of idle time on the ships right now. Beastie's navy is idle. He's going further forward. What is going on there?
Yeah, but at the same time, all of the docks are actually idled out as well by the sabotage button. And so now we are in a situation where VortiX not able to produce units from his docks. Beastie's losing eco.
Yes, he is. Beastie able to put, like, he's got a lot of docks out there, right? Like, he's able to garrison a lot of his fishing ships, and even if he loses any, it is relatively easy for the Japanese to remass. Meanwhile, it's not going to be as easy for VortiX to do the same thing.
Oh,
He's going to have to garrison.
It's a very scary dynamic that's happening here where they're both in each other's docks, but for Beastie, he has more docks, he has more garrison space, and for VortiX, he is now not going to be able to produce out of these docks and even get the third one up.
VortiX is lacking the gold as well. He's not able to make any more demolition ships. He's got a lot of wood in the bank.
And on Beastie's docks as well, he's got the emplacements as well. So even pushing these docks with Springle ships is going to be difficult for VortiX.
Yeah. The repairs coming as well. VortiX losing a lot of his own fishing ships. That is going to be very tough to repair, to rebuild.
Yeah,
Right, he has the wood for it in the bank, but you don't want to spend it like that. Oh my god. This is devastating. I'm wondering why VortiX didn't just garrison them. Like, he ran them around. Like, sure, you idle them out a little bit, but like either way, at least if he had them garrisoned, he could have gone on the shoreline fish. Instead, he just all sent them into the corner. And now VortiX is going to come back, but Beastie already has a fleet more than twice the size.
Yeah, I'm wondering what's happening right now. It seems VortiX is floating resources. He's able to get these emplacements that he might need, but then on top of that, he's also pushing as well. So it's sort of such a weird situation right now for both of these players. Now, idling out a little bit of gold here is certainly good, but the comeback on water is what VortiX need right now.
Demo ships coming in. It's only one archer ship.
Oh, big connection.
There could be some good connections in, yeah.
Dishing out some good damage here. Now the remaining fleet will be able to do damage, but Beastie coming in with another section, another fleet from the backline here, both Demo, Springles, and Archer ships. And up against VortiX, it's a very interesting water fight here, because while you might think that it's favored for Beastie, you are playing by VortiX docks, and he can keep on pushing out demos and demos and demos. If you don't have those Archer ships and the Springle micro from the Springle ships, then you're not going to be able to contest this.
Yeah. More demos coming out, more demos hitting Q. Able to take another Springle ship with it. Same goes for Beastie though. And behind this, I mean, VortiX, he is still behind in economy. Like, he lost a lot of his own fishing ships behind this. But he's able to hold and stabilize for the time being. But actually behind this, Beastie, now going into mass archer ships as well. With that, he doesn't have to fear the mass demos anymore.
Did you see as well that Beastie opened up with double stable now, fully producing horsemen is certainly also a way that he can idle out this wood line of VortiX, because that's such a deep wood line. Having melee units in there is going to be such a trouble to get out of because of pathing.
Behind that, I'm so confused with what VortiX is doing right now. Like, he's floating so much stone. I'm not sure what exactly the plan is for that. He's getting all of that just passively through the meditation garden, but I would have just loved to see him invest that into some naval emplacements.
Yeah, it's like it depends on so much how you're going to be able to control your military here on water. I'm sure VortiX has confidence that he's going to be able to contest this. He could potentially decide to go for the emplacements, but ultimately going for a second town center should he lose water is also not a bad play. So maybe he's saving the stone for it. Again, you don't want to make any preemptive decisions here, because you could go for a second town center and ultimately spend too many resources doing something like it, and that's going to lose you the water. So you want to make clever decisions here and not decisions that actually end up slowing you down.
I don't know, it feels like Juji's legacy, like, granted, this is VortiX's playstyle, right? Like, he wants to play aggressive. But it feels like you don't really need to necessarily do that with Juji's legacy here. Like, he could have just went for those naval emplacements, kind of like did the good old dog creep there. But now. I mean, Beasty is even getting the +1 Pierce armor upgrade behind this. These horsemen, they're going to do a lot of damage. And VortiX, he doesn't see this coming. He won't be able to react to that. Now suddenly 3 times naval emplacements have been queued up. But now the horsemen come in. VortiX, is he going to react to that? Now gets a notification. Villagers are getting pulled.
And now, at the same time, the horsemen are taking down the villagers. The water as well is going to be contested by Beastie. He's doing a push at the same time, so it's going to be split tension from both of these players. Double demo here. Gonna find a little bit of
They're just passing.
They're just passing each other. What was even that?
Nobody's seen it. Nobody noticed. Maybe BC noticed? He's sending the archer ships there. BC noticed. Oh my god, outpost being rushed up in the base of VortiX. All the demolition ships go down. And the horsemen with the +1 Pierce armor upgrade, they're just diving the TC. They're killing villagers. They're happy like that.
Getting such a massive value out of that, and he's using that leverage to go now for a push here on the water. Took out all the demos of VortiX, though he took out a few more in the back line. Beastie is going to find so much damage here simply because he has a stronger fleet. And with that demo connection as well, this looks doomed on water for VortiX.
Yeah, no more military remaining, and VortiX knows. He calls a GG. Beastie 2-0 in the lead now. Already on match point.
Such a strong display here coming from Beastie. What a weird way that he even started. Having 2 fleets in each of their bases in terms of...
That was crazy. Water. It's like a water-based race. If only VortiX invested the stone that he gotten early into those naval emplacements, that would have gone way different.
You know what? Can we just do it justice now? Can we really actually give it the appropriate hype? Because for a long time, we have sat here. We have talked about Voldemar. We talked about Lucifer, we talked about VortiX, different type of V, and how they are absolute gods of the water, unslayable, unkillable. Yet, Master of Realms, we saw Beastie take down Lucifer in an insane water battle. And that right there was one of the most insane Holy Ellen games we've seen. The control that he leveraged in this game, Voldemar, I know Beastie gets a lot of flack as kind of playing the meta, being the meta, but the way he approached Japan, both on land and water in this, was A, god tier micro, and B, incredibly innovative.
Yeah, I think he really threw VortiX off his game here early on. Having those 2 fleets dive each other's docks was such a off-putting play, I think, for a player like VortiX that's so used to having these classic fights on water and land. And then with the horseman play as well, just throwing his entire wood economy out the window, basically. That's a tough one.
No, I mean, it's hard to take anything away from Beastie in this series so far, Crackety, right? Like, I know there's been question marks. VortiX, I think, has been a little bit hit and miss recently. Beastie has remained quite consistent, but I think what's very impressive, Game 1 and Game 2, is the pace that he's playing with. A man who historically has a reputation for camper for that late game is showing no signs of looking that deep at all.
Yeah, I think Beastie, for the most part, he's kind of like keeping up with VortiX here in most regards. Like that first game, that Delhi game, Delhi English, just making the immediate decision, okay, I'm going to go Horseman, I'm going to deny that Sacred Side from coming in, picking off that early Scholar, and just kind of completely throwing VortiX off the game. We saw VortiX just adding in time and time again more archers, more archers, more archers. They never really found their place in the game there. And I think in those situations, Beastie just kind of like took VortiX's game plan. I think it's just because he knows how VortiX thinks as well. These two played so many games against each other.
Yeah, I think I noted Game 1, the Toro moment there, Voldemar, where he kind of decided to dive very ambitiously with the Ghazi. Kind of a signature VortiX move, right? Where he kind of just sends it in guns blazing. But it's once again an example to what Crackety just said. It seems Beastie is reading all of VortiX's moves. And the question has to be asked now, looking forward, Golden Heights, Mongol, Chinese, kind of feels like he's just read him again.
Yeah, it's certainly getting a weird draft to seem to be so much more favorable for him. I think we'll have to adjust a little bit on that creativity bar for his player card, because I'm looking at a player that is so like in the meta, but able to go off meta when it's necessary. And throwing somebody like VortiX off his game is so important, because that's the approach you got to have against players who are so mechanically proficient.
Yeah, and you know, the interesting thought now is, even if we get past the hump that is now this game 3, nothing but perfection here, Crackety. And I mean, we see nothing but perfection. He has got some decent picks there. Abbas's Roost. In theory, there's a way VortiX can get past this slump, but does this feel like it might be the hardest of the 3 games based on matchups?
It's definitely a tough one. I wouldn't say necessarily that it's the hardest. I think, actually, yeah, never mind. It's the hardest so far from what we see.
Come on, man. This is your opportunity to moan about how China, you know. Oh wait, no, they're OP here.
It's
Damn
hard.
It.
It's hard for Mongols to play it. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie here. I'm gonna say that China definitely is favored in this matchup, very much so. I think there's very little that Mongols in theory can do on this map specifically against China. I'm wondering here if we're gonna see like a dog play coming out from Beasty. Definitely could come in. Every now and then, like, you get these really great spawns as well, where you can like wall in your dog on the edges of the map. If you get that spawn, then you're able to keep the barracks in your base and supervise from there. If you don't, then you might have to build the base like the barracks somewhere else, just in order to have the spearmen there in time.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Maybe is it possible, Vodomar? Maybe the Mongols just go for a fast feudal, kind of ignore the water and deal with it in the second age.
I don't think you can realistically do that because it's so heavily dependent on the Dark Age outcome. Both of these civs are certainly capable of producing a lot of spearmen, and that means that whoever takes that advantage, it might be able to even cancel out some feudal play. You have to remember that Chinese get their passive income from the taxation, like we saw in the Shuji game, where the Shuji was just able to get to feudal and get the Shunu out. It's going to be something similar here, I think, because if he's able to deny the over with a superior spearman count, it's going to be one of the most difficult situations that he can put VortiX in.
I think it's the perfect situation when I think about it. We're about to have a Mongol versus Chinese showdown with Beasty on match point. On the microphone, we have someone who spams the Mongols, another person who has spammed TC's as Mongols, and both of them Chinese aficionados. Take it away, boys. This could be VortiX's final game of the tournament.
Potentially, unless this could be the comeback for him now. Gonna have to see exactly how that plays out. Beasty early on moves out with his villagers onto that pond, so we're gonna be seeing a dog drop from him happening here. VortiX in the meantime still in his base. Uwu has been built up, so spearman play should in theory be coming in from him on the other side.
Yeah, definitely, and it's going to be necessary as well going up against a dog like this. It's the main way you would go and try to deny it. But ultimately, if Beasty is able to get his own barracks up and running, then it's going to be super difficult to deal with the spearman.
Exactly. How is this gonna get approached now?
Oh,
Beasty
wow.
does still have a lot of villagers on wood, so we should at least see a follow-up coming in soon. Walls already dropped by Beasty on that dock, so is gonna make sure that at least the timing isn't gonna be coming in too close here. Wouldn't be surprised though if VortiX. Wait, is that actually closed? Okay, never mind. He's replacing that.
Yeah, this is certainly
that
an
did not look
interesting
gross.
opener. Certainly an interesting opener because what it does is it delays your opponent, but it doesn't really secure your dock. So the delay serves really just to get to the feudal age, or potentially getting enough spearmen out so you can defend it. It's a weird one because you want to get the dock up and running so you can get that deep sea food income. It's such a great food income to support something like a massive spearman play, but it doesn't look like it's going to be mass spearman play. If I look at the economy of Beasty, I'm seeing a very heavy food reserve, and that means that he's trying to get it up quickly.
Spearman now on the way for VortiX. Yeah, Beasty already being on goal definitely, as you said, means that he's not going to look to try and contest this with his own spearman in the Dark Age. There aren't any fishing ships, or at least only very few fishing ships out yet for him. VortiX is going to see the wall. Yeah, you can't go through there.
He can't go
Watch, it's
through
not
there.
coming out
indeed.
now.
Do you think that VortiX has an option to go for a for a first dock placement here, knowing now that Beasty is not going to play this Dark Age, or do you think that that's simply going to be too late, considering now that Beasty is focusing on Feudal Age, and that's going to enable him to build ships?
Definitely is gonna have to like make ships in Feudal Age. Yeah, it's gonna be coming in relatively soon as well. Like only 2 villagers on wood right now. He's definitely working on that. He still has a villager there next to the dock, so could in theory even try and repair the wall segment there. VortiX actually sends the second batch of Spearmen not towards the dock, but rather towards the base of Beasty. Is going to be not in time, though. H-Up will be coming in rather shortly.
Egypt's going to come through now. I wonder if he's going to... Yep, he's going to go for the Imperial Academy here. He doesn't go for a too greedy positioning, however, on these back wood lines, knowing that VortiX has these Spearmen out. These Spearmen are going to be able to deny something like that. The good thing about the Imperial Academy is that it allows you to get gold whilst you do not have the standard gold access through the taxation system.
Yeah. Silver Tree now coming in for VortiX. Trade definitely an option here on this map. You do have the trade market always in the corner. Very far corner. We're getting an early stable now. In Dark Age, the Mongols, the only civilization that can build that stable already in Dark Age. Means that it's already going to be ready as soon as he hits Feudal Age.
So it's an interesting dynamic again, knowing that he can't contest in the Dark Age and now opting to go for the Feudal Age himself. He's gonna be needing food, but the thing is, if he can scale with the Silver Tree and get the trade up and running, VortiX is gonna be in a position where he might be able to overtake the Chinese player.
Beasty doesn't have an Imperial Official yet. He needs the gold in order to be able to get his first Imperial Official from the Imperial Academy. After that, he'll be fine in gold. Just needs to get there. And that is maybe gonna be a villager down. He's gonna run for it, but he's gonna get it. One villager goes down.
It's a pretty big deal here early on.
Silver Tree behind this, now finishing up as well. So now VortiX has a way of scaling his economy as well. Archer ship coming in as well. I mean, there aren't actually that many fishing ships out for BC at this point in time, so I actually don't mind this position for VortiX right now. He can literally just transition into trade and be fine that way. Also, could double produce a batch of Kashyyyks very, very soon.
Yeah, he's going to have to rely on this double production because the Chinese economy is just so strong. He's getting the extra 20% drop-off from that Imperial official supervising, and then he's going to be able to get the tax as well. And so a situation like this, where you do have the pond fully controlled, is just going to be crucial when we move into this mid-game. It's going to allow him to get more food because he doesn't need to invest into a second town center, whereas VortiX is now going to have to invest into trade, serving a similar function.
Market still getting into position at this point in time. Beasty, now that he's got his archer ship there, knows that he's going to be in a position to at least invest a little bit more into water here. So has a lot of villagers on wood right now. Would also help him for a potential Zhugunu switch. First couple of Kashyyyks are out now. Beasty has 2 spearmen. There's still 4 spearmen out from VortiX, so this could be quite dangerous here. That woodline's pretty exposed now as well, outside the range of the TC.
Certainly an interesting situation here. The Kashyyyk creeping up here through the middle, and together with the spears might be able to find some damage on this wood line. And that is going to be quite significant here because it's the main way that he's going to be able to dent the economy, to sort of skewer the economy balance a little bit here.
Kashyyyks do come in, get a charge off on 2 separate villagers. One villager will go down. First villager pick off there was successful.
He finds some initial good damage here. He was going to be able to come back around, but the spearman production from Beasty is up and running, so the longer this goes, the harder it gets. In the meantime, however, he's going to be building up this trade, and this trade is going to be the main way that he's going to find a victory in this game, because it is a victory condition in of itself in the way that it sort of sets you up for a greater economy. If you don't get a greater economy, the Chinese, I think, with the pond access is just eventually going to outscale you, and then there's nothing you can do.
You see, he's going to have to move into Zhugunu rather soon, because now VortiX already added in his first couple of archers and soon will be able to shut down this wood line. Unless, no, for the time being, he actually sits around the neutral market, isn't moving further forward. Scout from Beasty, he's getting found out. We'll take some hits there. Spearman actually taking it down. He's going to blind Beasty for the time being. Now where is VortiX going to attack from? Did he kill another villager there? No, it doesn't look like another villager went down.
The scout pick-off is certainly important. It does prevent vision, but again, Beasty got the info that he needed. He knows now that the trade is up and running. He knows what the composition is looking like for VortiX, that he is adding in those archers. And so realistically, he only really needs a scout now to sort of gauge how many units is VortiX going to be making, how invested is he into this trade, and what sort of timing can he look for.
This is gonna be difficult now because Beasty hasn't made any Jugunu yet. And VortiX, he's starting to get a really dangerous army mass out, and he might just break through the wall that Beasty just put up. Because that's where the wood is right now. First archery range coming in now. Timing feels awkward though. Outpost getting rushed up, but Archer's actually gonna be in range to deny that. Or at least get a good amount of damage in on the villagers. Beasty pulling them back one by one. Doing a good job there. Pulling the healthy villagers forward now as well. Rotating them out one by one. Gonna lose another one there. But overall, is gonna make sure that that outpost goes up. And BC's not Song Dynasty. He can't make Zhugudu, he can only make archers. Oh, this is terrible for him right now. He needs Song Dynasty soon.
I'm not sure he really needs it because his archers would be able to counter both the spearmen and the archers in of itself. But you're right, those Shuganu would be able to counter the Keshiks as well, doing a good damage overall. A lot of Keshiks coming through here. He's going to be needing his spearmen, but as well as the archers and the potential Shuganu later, now getting the Barbican up and running.
14 villagers rushing that one up quickly. It's not in a great spot though. It protects the wood line. But on that, nothing much. Like, not the gold. The gold's not protected at all. And if you do want to go into Jugunu, you're not going to be able to make them just from taxes.
Yeah, it's a large amount of gold you'll need to be able to produce such a unit. The tax certainly helps, but you'll need that gold access as well. Now VortiX finding a nice little raid down the side here. It's going to not take too much damage from the Barbican and the towers. But in the end, most of his economy is secure behind that Barbican. So for VortiX to do damage to Beasty, he's going to have to look further.
Yeah, VortiX starting to lead in the Eco Cup. What is that?
Is that a wall on the silver tree?
Yeah, he's walling in the silver tree.
If he gets that wall up and running, that's going to be such a pain because it full
in
stops the
theory,
trade.
just the trader could block it, and then VortiX could just upgrade that outpost in the meantime. Like, he barely even needs to react to that actively, but if it goes up... I mean, VortiX sees this from a mile away with the outpost. Yeah, there it is. Upgrade immediately gets queued. And now the trader moves into position to block.
Yeah, it was a perfect read from you there. The trader blocking the palisade construction and then the tower being in such a perfect position. Once it's upgraded, it's going to be able to deny the villager constructing the rest of these walls here. Again, it's a nice effort from Beasty, potentially shutting down the trade, but I think someone like VortiX is just always going to be really looking out for some cheese like this.
Yeah. And with that, I mean, close but no cigar. Maybe BC sends one more villagers in order to finish the job later on. BC now has started massing up some of the Jugunu. Has gotten 8 out already. He's got 5 archery ranges. That's a lot for somebody who doesn't have any more Jugunu or archers in queue.
Yeah, it's a lot of range units potentially. He will also need it because if he plays this too passively, getting into the mid game where VortiX has a full trade line and that trade line also has towers and it's upgraded and an army as well to back it, it's going to be really, really difficult to do any damage here. I would have loved to see something like the Barbican dropped on that trade line and potentially shutting that down. But, you know, in this situation,
he wasn't
like this,
able. Yeah,
he was not able
that
to.
Death.
Yeah, the
imagine if he pulled 14 villagers for forward Barbican.
Yeah,
all of them.
then you might as well throw in the tower, right?
Yeah. VortiX still keeping it pretty even right now when it comes to the overall eco count. So truly building up a great lead there with the trade as well. Got a good amount of resource in the bank as well, and currently definitely leading in the army value department. Almost 10 Keshiks at this point in time, and when you have similar Keshik count to the spearman count, you have to feel really, really good about yourself, just because like your archers are going to be able to pretty much reduce those spearmen to half their numbers in just 1 or 2 volleys.
Yeah, I think the range composition from VortiX is going to be more important than the cavalry side of it. You want to have superior numbers when it comes to the archers dealing with those spearmen before your Keshiks can really do something. And we see this time and time again, these engagements here where you might have a cavalry civ, but the cavalry civ is really just serving the purpose to let the archers shine, because you want your opponent to make spears, so you make enough cavalry, and then you force out enough spears for the archers to really shine.
There we go, fight is happening. Archers focus out the spearmen. Lots of them already going down. One spearman gets a brace in on the Keshik. So so many of these spearmen just losing their life very, very quickly here. Every time they move forward, 1 or 2, 3 of them going down. And that's a good trade out there at that point in time from VortiX. And just earlier, when the 6 spearmen went into the outpost, I really liked how all the healthy spearmen went into the outpost, and the one spearman that had like 1 health had to fight the other spearman from Beasty.
Yeah, I gotta ask you about this though, because we see time and time again how Chinese and Shuji players go for these spearmen, but ultimately you can get so many Shugenus out for the same price in terms of total
You
resources.
need some spears. Like, whenever you do go for that, and suddenly your opponent comes around with like 10, 20 horsemen, suddenly you do feel the need of, oh wait, the opponent's front line isn't dying immediately. Maybe I did need a couple of spearmen. And yeah, it's definitely good that you have some of them. You'll definitely need them.
Shugenu mass is building up nicely here, but VortiX is looking greater on the military side of things here.
He's got so much gold right now in the bank. Starting to get a little bit of a farming transition going. Takes a while to fully set up. Doesn't have the room for it as well.
So the trade's being built up quite nicely here, but Beasty still got that water. It's very balanced at this point, I feel. I mean, I'm looking at the different incomes, and whilst there's both of going castle, at this stage of the game, we are looking at similar incomes.
Yeah, and VortiX now able to pull the trigger when it comes to Castle Age. Beasty right behind that. Kurultai now coming in. And Kurultai is just really good when it comes at giving you that immediate damage boost here. Astronomical Clock Tower coming in for Beasty. And we know what Beasty can do when it comes to Clock Tower Nest of Bees. He's an absolute pro at using them to really lock down his base. And VortiX, he's going to have to make siege rather sooner than later if he wants to deal with that.
Yeah, again, we're talking about 2 civilizations here who are very proficient in the siege department. The Mongols being able to produce siege in the field, but the Chinese fitted with the astronomical clock tower. Getting that larger health pool on the siege units is massive in the siege fights. So it's going to be very interesting to see how that's going to play out here. I do believe that the clock tower is going to provide a massive influence on those fights.
Yeah. First veterancy and +2 damage upgrades have been queued. Couple of palace guards as well, so no resources right now to get any clock tower Nest of Bees out yet. Also supervision, so these upgrades are coming in really, really quickly. BC realized that his upgrades are going to finish way ahead in time. Yeah, and that's suddenly not a fight that you can really take if you're VortiX. Like, your Keshiks suddenly lose a lot of health. Granted, veterancy has come in rather quickly on them.
Yeah, veterancy came through right here, and Kurultai backing this up as well means that this fight can actually go really, really well for you. It certainly is for VortiX right now.
Yeah, he's just keeping pushing it in. Even the palace guards that are coming out right now, they're just dying instantly to those Keshiks, and the numbers from Beasty just getting reduced to smithereens right there. Now the gate is still damaged. He can just push past the gate. Nest of Bees in queue now. Veterancy in on the archers. Kurultai packing up. Moving forward now as well. I mean, the outpost and the Barbican, they're not gonna be enough in order to keep this out. Villagers finish off that wall, but are gonna fall to the archer fire now.
And now getting the +2 ranged armor and the Kurultai coming in here with the added healing and 20% extra damage means that even though you're fighting in these lanes, there's just simply not enough military mass here for Beasty, which means these Keshiks will find that Nest of Bees kind of easily here.
Yeah, Nest of Bees firing, but the archers is just too many, and Beasty only on 20 military. More and more Keshiks coming in. VortiX still at almost 20 Keshiks. This is it. I don't think Beasty can hold this, and indeed, GG comes in. VortiX gonna get a point on the board.
Gets a nice point here, even he's in the match point for Beasty, and that's a difficult situation to find yourself in, so it's certainly relieving for VortiX to find this damage. It's a very powerful display, dealing with the Shugenu mass here, a little bit of preemptive push as well for Beasty, but ultimately VortiX sees that, he gets a nice timing on his upgrades, and the Kurultai backing it all up means that not allowing Beasty to build that siege means that his timing was just very, very clean.
Yeah, I mean, this felt just like Beasty just waiting a little bit too long and kind of letting that trade build up. Because at that point in time, oh my god, I'm frozen up again. Look at me. There we go. Uh, at that point in time, like, if you let the trade escalate too much here, it's gonna be more than even when it comes to your food income on water. And yeah, it's definitely necessary for you to just push into that trade way sooner. He had the military at one point in time. I feel like the Jugunu switch needs to be heavier, and you can actually like be the one that goes up to Castle Age later, as long as you're able to deny the trade.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we gotta look forward though, because the path forward for VortiX is quite an interesting one here. He pulls out the Ruse, and that's not necessarily a counter pick here on Dry Arabia versus the Iobits. Notorious for that Castle Age timing, really good at dealing with cavalry, and that's just so difficult for the Ruse to cope with.
It is. This is gonna be an interesting one. I wouldn't mind seeing like a Ruse Fast Castle Age come in again. Like Golden Gate. If your opponent doesn't necessarily expect the Golden Gate, they might just go for Economic Growth in Feudal Age. I would like to see that.
There's some utility
go
to that.
Gate and go Golden Gate, and then you can just make normal Cav Archers, right? Cav Archers, in theory, they also deal pretty well, just because the base damage is so high. They deal pretty well with even with Camel on East. They still have enough base damage to penetrate through most armor.
Yeah, certainly.
And they can kite.
Yeah. I'm not sure about the Ruse Fast Castle, though. I think it's not really going to be able to compare to the Iobit one, but if you can find enough damage...
Fast Castle Abbey.
Fast Castle Abbey? We're playing Dar Arabia. That's not something you would do normally if you don't have like natural blockers. And
Golden Gill.
Ranged.
You go Golden Gate, Abbey of Trinity. We go all the way back to 2021.
Are you talking Horse Archer now?
Yeah, we're going Horse Archer, we're going Golden Gate, we're going Abbey of Trinity.
And full Springle as well?
Yeah, full Springle. You don't make anything but Springles there.
Yeah, so full Springle, full Horse Archer. And then we're going to take that Golden Gate and we're going to put all of our gold into it, as we're going to make so many Horse Archers. What are you going to do?
You're going to accumulate the tickets, you're going to get all the stone for it, and then you're going to build a Wonder.
Wonder
Victory, Golden Gate, Abbey of Trinity. I'm here for it. 2-hour game, 3-hour game. That's gonna be it.
I mean, you gotta go out with a bang here if it's gonna be the last game, though.
I know that's gonna be a tie then.
Yeah.
One more game
with
after
the
the
Wonder
2-hour game. Yeah.
How many tickets realistically make sense to pile up, and could you really get a Golden Gate going for a Wonder?
40 tickets.
40 tickets. Yeah, that was a ludicrous talks here. We got to get back to the essence of this matchup. We're fighting Ruse versus Iobits here. I'm not sure how Ruse realistically approaches this, because I've seen it before play out with Ruse going for the second TC and then this sort of English-style feudal aggression accompanying it. But we could also see a Fast Castle, to your point.
Kremlin Rush.
Are you still on
Kremlin.
this?
Oh, you go for it. You just full send it, man. Like, this is the point in time, right? Like VortiX, he's facing Beasty on match point. This is where you gotta get that creativity out. This is where you gotta really embrace the aggression, that 11 out of 10 aggressiveness score that VortiX has. So you just full on send it with that Kremlin, forward Kremlin, and you just pray that it works.
So you're essentially saying that for VortiX, he's put enough stats into creativity and aggressiveness to match that into a proper Kremlin rush.
Hey, I'm here for it. I'm here for it. Just a couple of seconds. Actually, no seconds remaining. We're jumping right into it. Match point now for Beasty. We're looking at Ruse versus Iobits here on Dry Arabia. Doesn't get more classic than this right now when it comes to the maps. That matchup's definitely not a classic. This is something that you don't see every day here. Beasty only with a single scout. VortiX going for the typical triple scout opener. And it looks like he made one of his scouts from his TC.
Yeah, it's something we see more and more from the Ruse, is that the second scout coming out from the TC allows you to go way more aggressive with your initial scout and have the second scout clean up the first year packs around your base. A little bit curious again to see the Iobit player going for one scout opener. We saw it previously as well, where the scout opener, yeah, it's great, but it also delays you a lot if you're playing a civ like the Abbasid or the Iobits. And so sometimes you cannot afford to go for that, because if you want your Desert Raiders out quicker.
Yeah. VortiX is going to get a good amount of bounty here. Killing Wolf still has a deer camp ahead of him there. Overall, looking good for him here so far, and is going to be able to cue that early Dark Age wheelbarrow that the Roos really like to get early on in the game. The question is, are we just going to see like a 2TC Roos play? I don't think we're going to see 2TC Roos. I would be surprised if that was going to be the case. I have to wait and see, though, how exactly that's going to turn out, and if VortiX is going to be able to get that 250 bounty, and it looks like he is. I think I just heard a wolf, so Scout is now going to be hitting a wolf there. There we go. And with that 250 bounty mark is going to be reached nice and early before the 2.5 minute mark. That's a quick one.
Yeah, it gives him that extra eco boost that he will need to go for the wheelbarrow early, and should he decide to also go into a stable, getting a little bit more gold here, getting up to the 300 mark, a little bit more than that, then he's going to be able to produce knights as well early, as he will try to go for either aggression or that second TC. I'm not so sure about that fast castle play, but we'll have to wait and see. Desolator's now coming through with the military reinforcement for the House of Wisdom, and Kremlin as well. A bit of a cancellation here, gonna have to reposition it more towards the gold. And what do you think this really signals, covering the wood and the gold?
I mean, it also covers the stone in the back indirectly. So overall, I quite like this. This is also going to give him a lot of line of sight. The Kremlin just provides you with that much line of sight as well, around the entire wood line there. I like this. This is something that I would have liked to see from Kiljadi earlier as well. Just you take a little bit more steps to getting that Kremlin up, like you walk a little bit further, but you're getting so much more value out of that. And look at that, even more wolves that VortiX is collecting here. So 335 bounty. This man is rich right now. No 80 bounty for him here.
Yeah, it's a sizable amount of bounty, and it matters so much in these professional games here because those extra resources. Another one, yeah. It's really. You might as well send it now, Crackety.
Oh my god, it's 11:30 p.m. I'm at my grandma's place now. I'm not gonna full send it.
I'm challenging you.
I'm not gonna full send it. No, you're not getting me. You're not getting me here.
All right. 360 bounty now for VortiX. As we were alluding to earlier, that is such a massive tempo boost, and it's going to allow him to go for more upgrades or even units early without taking too much of a hit here.
Outpost coming up from Beasty, so this signals that it's definitely going to be that fast Castle Age play from the Ayubids here. No surprises there, and we do see him taking great care of making sure that he isn't over gathering from any of these berry bushes, so will very likely just be that economic growth that we used to see from the Ayubids. And what's the plan on the other side from VortiX? No villagers out on the stone yet, so no second TC plan so far, and we do have the scouts doing damage on that outpost. Yeah, villagers now going over to gold, so this is going to be a feudal age all-in that we're going to see from VortiX. I like this play.
Yeah, I think it's definitely necessary. It's going to be difficult, however, with this tower up. Doing some good damage here with the scouts certainly matters, and getting the tower upgrades true, but again, you have to find damage early. We saw it before with Lucifron, and he wasn't able to find enough damage and build enough units to be able to contest those Castle Age units coming out from the Ayubid. And so if it plays out similarly, it could prove to be very difficult for VortiX to do damage. But you have to also remember, the spawn is also different. For Beasty, he's got deer, he's got that sort of spread
All the
out.
food is in the front.
Yeah, it's kind of in the front.
And he doesn't have a lot of sheep.
It's also more towards the bottom as well. What we saw in that previous Roos game was that all the food was sort of in one space, and that means that if it's denied, it's a very big issue for the player that's supposed to go for them. Here, it's a little bit of a different situation because you could potentially lock down one food section and contest the other one. Should you lose it, then you have the other one too.
I think this is going to be a very difficult game for Beasty, mainly because all the food resources are very far away from his main base. And I think this is going to be a play that VortiX can do here and just starve Beasty off of food.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so crucial when you do these aggressive strategies that you are mindful of how many resources your opponent has available to them. There's a good amount of sheep here, about 12 sheep, and he's got the berries as well. Doing some really nice micro here as well. You got to pay attention to this. The villagers being spread out like this allows for that growth wing to come in later and buff up the berries with the orchards. And so that's quite an important step as well as we approach that Castle Age.
Yeah. Archers now coming in as well from VortiX. Still no military building yet from Beasty. Penny doesn't have any wood in the bank as well. He just perfectly macroed his way up to a very, very fast castle age. Click up is going to come in now. Economic Wing will be the name of the game here for Beasty. Pulling off the berries now just in order to not overgather them. Also a knight there harassing. And the first blacksmith upgrade that we see from VortiX is going to be siege engineering.
Yeah, we've seen this time and time again with VortiX, able to pull out this siege engineering with civs that usually don't go for it. I would not have expected an early siege engineering coming out from VortiX here, but it's going to be quite important should he want to
the outpost
deny
yet.
these. Yeah, that's not prepared
He doesn't
either.
have the wood for it. He's getting the wood now.
Getting the wood now, but he needs it for units later, though, so he needs to build it for production. I'm not sure that he's going to take the time to repair this.
Yeah, I mean, he's on straggler trees as well, and the ram is coming in now.
What's going to be important here is the amount of gold that Beasty can collect before this push comes through, because it will dictate how many camel lancers he can push out.
Scout sees the ram. I bet we're going to immediately see a repair on the outpost, right? Right? Or is he just going to forfeit the outpost?
I think that outpost goes down no matter what. What you should really try to focus on is getting more gold so you can push out more units to get the control back off it.
That's fair. Desert Raiders actually coming out forward. Want to greet the archers there. Good micro from VortiX.
Getting a little bit greedy here. Focusing on getting wheelbarrow might be a little bit too much in a game where you have to survive right now. That wheelbarrow might not pay off in time. He needs the gold for sure if he wants to be able to survive this, and then he has to...
Building. Ooh,
Yeah.
We're getting camel lancers. I'm sure sometimes it feels like camel lancers are really good, but other times it feels like they don't really provide you with too much. And it's only a single production building right now. VortiX already has a couple of knights there. And Beasty, he's going to have enough gold for 3, maybe 4 with the drop off there. Villager does get picked off. That one was still carrying gold. Body block. Doesn't have the Pierce armor upgrade yet.
Aye.
But still, more villagers going down.
They're just going down, trying to path towards that tower. Tower gets taken down as well, so now the gold is fully denied for Beasty here. And he's going to have to look to do something with the remaining gold that he has currently in his bank. He's got 2 stables, and he's going to be able to produce camel lances, but only 3 on the matter, because only 3, oh, actually 4. He's got 400 gold in total. Losing a couple of villages here is also really, really scary.
He's actually lacking gold slightly. A camel lance is 110 gold,
Oh, yeah, that's
not
true.
100. He's going to have to move over to gold as well at some point. Desert Raider tries to get some harass there on the villagers, but archers... Wait, knight? You're hitting the scout, not the... Ooh, that hurts.
Ow.
I gotta be fine. I gotta be fine. If you believe.
Currently, VortiX being able to find quite a lot of value with this ram and the Knight Archer mass here.
Yeah, taking down production building is so huge.
Yeah, it matters so much with these timings because not allowing your opponent to even produce units when they have the resources for it is crucial
pulling
with
the
these
builds.
timings.
The builds. I mean, BC already lost so many villagers, right? Like the advantage with the economic and growth, it's already gone pretty much.
Yeah, we're leveled out here and we've got the idle time on top of that. Even though Beasty tried to do some damage on that deer pack, he didn't find any villager kills, and now he's down 7 villas, back to normal.
Yeah, BC might need to send villagers over to gold now again. That camel lancer is still very healthy, so the archers aren't going to be able to deal with that. Single knight comes in. Double outpost play now from Beasty. I mean, there aren't any more rams coming in anytime soon.
And you got to remember that this is quite a massive investment when there aren't more rams, but you're still going to go for double tower. That is your production building plus 50 wood, right?
Yeah. Archers might be able to pick off some more villagers now. 1 villager gets picked off. Looks like that's about it. Desert Raider doesn't really have any pierce armor. Should get picked off there as well. Now Camel Lancer are going to clean up the archers. That means Beasty is going to have access to food again. I feel like the play with the Spearman might have been a little bit too slow. We're now getting another ram. 2 rams. All right, VortiX really still trying to get control over that gold. Now double archery range is being dropped.
Find it difficult to see where Beasty necessarily wants to take this. I mean, he could potentially grab relics, and he is looking to do that with that dervish in production. Still, there's impending damage coming through with the next push here from VortiX, but the counter rate as well. It is quite important to have these counter rates because it can be a way to switch your opponent's attention towards their base and give you more breathing room. Here, however, it doesn't look like VortiX is intending to stop.
It definitely doesn't look like it, but Beasty's adding in crossbows, not archers. That's surprising. That's very expensive.
It's certainly expensive, and it's not like you're lacking wood to do so. Essentially, you are spending more resources on now food and gold. Now finding this is also a pretty big deal. A couple of villagers are going to go down here on the deer as VortiX tries to build an expansion. That's just not going to happen.
Yeah, it's going to be a couple of villagers going down for VortiX there. Some militia has been called as well. Should be able to deal with those camel lancers. Definitely not a feels good moment for him there. Now the Rams do come in. Oh, the surround, the surround. Oh, just hovering on the edge there. But will still get taken down. At the same time, outposts gonna get taken down as well. So villagers do go down.
Big push coming here from VortiX, now taking down the towers as well. And the villagers go down inside the towers. He's forgetting to put them back. Pretty big damage coming through from both players here.
Both players just doing a lot of damage to each other here. In the end, VortiX still not looking too bad. Even though he didn't get, like, critical damage in so far, every little bit counts. And Beasty now having less villagers than VortiX, even with the economic growth.
Yeah, he has...
though, can VortiX get enough units out in order to finish this game off at any point in time here?
Yeah, that's the question. You want to get that military lead going for you, because once the techs start coming in, you're going to feel it. When you have a military lead, you can potentially take out a smaller army like that, even though you don't have the tech advantage. But again, if you can't build it up, if you're losing too many units, that's not going to be an option.
VortiX once again moving towards that gold. Doesn't know yet that Beasty moved out to the gold in the middle of the map. Relic gets denied. For the time being, Beasty so far, he's gotten one relic. One more is gonna be on the way. Rams right now, they're just running around the base from Beasty, trying to see what exactly is going on over there. Could take down some more of the production buildings. Definitely wouldn't hurt. Beasty's still getting a lot of resource on the map right now. Has managed to go out on the berries up there. Now double ram. Starts to tickle some of these production buildings.
There's a lot of units inside these rams here, and so the only real thing that can take them out is going to be the cavalry or villagers. And as those units approach these rams, with such a sizable amount of spears inside, it's going to be difficult.
Yeah. Spearmen are going to have to hop out, even just for a second, to start and do some damage against the Camel Lancer. There we go. Hop out for a moment. Right now, I mean, Beasty has the army advantage here. Overall numbers lead. Spearmen, I mean, once they're in melee form, once they're in melee range, they can do some damage. But yeah, just getting taken down now by the massive archers. Rams try to take another production building down, but the villagers do go on them. Raids at the same time from Beasty on both sides. Production building stays up. And now we're getting into a difficult phase of the game where VortiX has less military out on the field than Beasty does, but Beasty is in Castle Age and more villagers go down.
Yeah, it's a tough situation. He has no victory condition as he's now losing out on the military front, which means
VortiX
now
going up. He's trying to go up.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's going to be enough though. Beasty has too much of a lead, and now getting the relics as well. It's going to be such a tough game to come back in now that you didn't do the damage that you wanted to do in Feudal.
It's definitely going to be a rough one. VortiX, he can't really afford making much more military right now. He does still have the Kremlin as a defensive unit, but I don't think VortiX is going to be able to deny the next couple of relics that are going to go over to BC side.
Yeah, I doubt that as well. We are seeing the high trade house coming through. That could potentially bring VortiX a little bit back into this game, giving him some extra gold, some extra high gather rates. But in the end, we have to just take it for face value. We are up against, on VortiX side, upgraded units. It's Castle Age, and these units are pretty cheap to produce as well. You got to remember, these are archers, but their power level is large. It's very big.
Yeah, +2 Pierce Armor is coming as well, so Beasty will be able to dive the TCs for pretty much forever, without really having to be very worried about that. Some Night Raids coming in, but I mean, the reinforcement at this point in time are going to be able to deal with them. Just the archers being able to do a lot of damage there as well.
Yeah, definitely. That extra few damage points that you get from the veterancy matters so much, as we've been talking about in previous settings with Yayabits, where you can go for knights and you can go for horsemen and so on, but you're just not going to be able to have enough ranged armor to deal with that simply because of the archer veterancy.
A little distraction Wololo gets pulled. Militia coming in there as well. Now Castle Age Militia doing a good amount of damage. Wololo comes in a little bit too early. Only going to convert the militia. Villagers still stay inside though.
It's always a feels bad moment when your most desperate unit is taken out by the Wololo, and there is the GG. 3-1 for Beasty.
3-1 for Beasty indeed, and that means that he is going to be able to keep on progressing through the loser bracket. And that means that we're going to see him again next weekend.
Does mean that VortiX is going to go into the grave, though, on this one. And big question marks on whether this might be the final time we see VortiX. I know he's been quite vocal about his support for Stormgate with his release on the horizon. Be unfortunate to lose him, but I guess, you know, a beautiful way in some ways to lose him, right, Voldemar? Beasty, definitely one of the front runners. There's no shame going out to him. I think the thing that I loved about this final game, though, truly emphasized attacker versus defender, right? If there's any way to go out, it's playing your own style.
Oh yeah, you got to stick to it, and it's not really the time where you really want to be doing too many different things. I know we talked about it before with Beasty knowing how he's up against a meta player and going off meta. Here it's about sticking to your sticks and your stones. You know what you can do and what you can't do, and you know the keys to these games, but essentially it wasn't enough.
And it was, you know, for a moment, it looked like there was hope there, right? I don't know if I was just being baited false. I don't know if you're there with me, Crackety, but for a moment there, I wanted to really believe there was a way of ruining a fast Castle Library build like that.
I felt it. I definitely felt it. But yeah, I mean, Beasty, he knows how to deal with these situations, right? Like, he had resource all around his base. So if the army is on one side, you got to put your villagers on the other side. And in the end, just able to weather that storm, get his own army mess up, and once you get those upgrades in, finally you're able to start taking these better trades. And Beasty able to win out then with the bits. It really looked like VortiX would have been able to maybe take that one.
And it would have been impressive, right? Kind of tough situations already mentioned with the way the Mongol Chinese game went. That was kind of unexpected as well, right, Voldemar? I think, you know, going into that, there was some perceptions that China should have this on the bag. But VortiX just reminding us why Mongols is still registered as his signature civ there.
Yeah, I do believe that the Chinese getting the water is a very big deal, but again, that's where VortiX shines. He's able to protect a trade line and just knows exactly to pinpoint that timing for when he needs to go to the Castle Age. And that's where the Kurotai comes into play. That's when the veterancy comes into play. And if you get it right, which he did, then those Shugenus are just simply not going to be able to dish out enough damage.
Now, with that detail finalized, it means that we have said farewell to another 2 and come down to 4. I think it's time to have a look at our brackets and see how things are lining up, because although one bro squad are going to be broken up, another one might have beef at the dinner table here, because when we look at our upper bracket, we now have an interesting situation on the horizon. Puppy Port and Wham. The Canadians are the ones remaining. NA rise up, take a stand and take a bow, because no Europeans remain in that winner's bracket right now. It is between Wham and Puppy Port, a best of 5 decider to see who will be waiting in that grand finals. That matchup, of course, will be happening next weekend on the opening day, August 3rd. But we also have other exciting things for August the 3rd, because if we look at our lower bracket, that's where things have been brewing. We said farewell to Kiljadi, a decent run, his best finish ever in an S-tier tournament we've seen so far, but I'm sure it's just the beginning of higher things. And of course, unfortunately, on the other side of things, leading into that, we did see the fall of Baltoon. Dumu was not able to continue on for his set against VortiX. And as we just saw, VortiX eliminated. Now, top 6 going to be the end of his story here for Red Bull Wololo El Reinado, which means that Lucifron does carry the hopes of all Spaniards to try and keep it alive. But to do so, he is going to have to face off against Beasty next weekend. That will be one of our opening sets. I think the goal here is probably going to be upper bracket, lower bracket, but we'll get that confirmed. Just crazy to think that we've already had to eliminate so many different people, Crackety.
Yeah, it's definitely been a long road to get here, and a lot of people did fall along the way. That's for sure. That's for sure. And I mean, it's all for that one seat, for that one ticket over to Spain.
I keep saying it's like a date with Marine Lord. It kind of feels like a dating show right now. I feel like right now, Voldemar, we're going through the CVs to see who is the perfect partner for Marine Lord.
Yeah, and it's kind of true to some extent, because you're looking at the skill levels and you want to sort of filter through who's actually the best one, and in the end you are going to find the one that's made it through the bracket, and it's only one person who's going to qualify.
Absolutely. Now, of course, for those that don't qualify, they will at least take some money and stick it in their pocket, because although there is $30,000 up for grabs on the grand finals on LAN in Spain, there is going to be 20,000 dispersed upon the remainder. Second place, person who loses that grand finals will actually get 5K there. Not too bad, but we've got to make some speculations here. I'm not going to let you guys get away with it. I'm not going to let you be neutral about this. Crackety, you've seen enough now. You've got to make a claim. Who is going to be your champion, your herald, to go forward and challenge Marine Lord?
I think it's going to be either Puppy Paw or Beasty. I think...
I said don't be diplomatic, and you basically chose 50% of the remaining players.
Hey, you got I'm not going to put all my eggs in one basket there, but...
Wise man.
That's where I'm gonna put the chances. Yeah.
Okay. Well, what about you, Voldemar? Are you gonna maybe give Wham some backing? Is there hope for Lucifron, or are you in a similar?
I was certainly impressed by Wham's performance against Beasty. It was a very interesting set. I gotta say though, being in the top 16 myself and thrown out of this bracket by Lucifron, I was very, very impressed by his mechanics, and I'm sure that he'll be able to have a very, very strong display as well. So, should I pick one to stick with and root for?
You know what? I respect you more if you pick one.
Yeah, I would probably go with Lucifron. I'm not gonna shy away from that.
Okay, there we go, Lucy. I'm gonna round it out. Okay, Crackety's a greedy boy. He gets to have 2. I believe in the power of Wham. I think he's looked incredible in this tournament. I think historically, he kind of gets written as a second to Puppy Paw. I think a lot of people always keep an eye on him for good reason. His performance at the start of the year really spoke for themselves. But I've always felt like Puppy Paw kind of got a little bit more favorability in competitive, got a little bit further. Wham should not be slept on, and you guys should not sleep on him at all. Remember, we've still got one more weekend to cover here for Red Bull El Reinado for AoE 4 on the EGC channel. It will kick off same time as always, 16 GMT. 16 UK time, 15 GMT. I hate time zones. Make sure you lock it in. Make sure you're there. A big shout out to everyone who's been donating. Also, a big shout out to people that have been using our Surfshark code Wololo at checkout to get 4 months extra. Remember, it lets them know that you want to see them come back for another event. Maybe a myth event. We'll just have to see. But also, really big shout out to Voldemar. His debut here on the EGC channel. He nailed it. Absolute beaut. Look at him. He's trying not to blush. Well, but rounding it out, you know what? I want Voldemar to hype this out on the outro. I always get to the outros. We're going to throw him into the fire and see how he handles this. Hype it up, Voldemar. Why should people tune in next weekend?
Next weekend is going to be... What are we even going up against? It's going to be the lower bracket final. We're going to see the upper bracket final again. The Canadian bros are going to go up against each other. And Beasty versus Lucifron in that lower bracket semifinal is going to be super interesting to see how that's going to end up as well. So stick around for that next week. It's going to be packed, and the skill levels are so minute now. Only the very best make it through to that final seed in Spain.
Look at that. Taking the...